Hey guys, today I just wanted to do a video on forgiveness and finding the middle ground, the in-between. And I know in life we always like to say, people like to say, well, it's love or fear, it's black or white. But I really do believe that we have to admit that there's a lot of gray in life, and that's okay. And I think sometimes we're afraid of that gray. And maybe that's why we like to convince ourselves that it's just black or white, right or wrong, left or right. You know what I mean? There's really a lot of gray in life, and the experience that I'd like to share with you today, I'm sure someone out there can relate to, which is why, again, I share for my own healing and for your healing as well. I think it's really interesting that when you are on your path and you feel like you're really guided, you're taking necessary action steps towards living your purpose and living your dreams, distractions come up. For a reason. A lot of things come up and will try to tear you off your path, and that's really what I feel like I've been going through lately, with people from my past coming up, recently, even as of this morning. You know, stuff happens like that, and you can really question, well, should I just revert to my past? Or maybe you don't even question it. Maybe just part of you, your ego, is like, yeah, you should just revert to your past. Go back to your old belief systems. Go back to your old relationships. Yeah, because that's comfortable. I think that's why it's so appealing. I'm trying to figure out why it's so enticing, even though your soul and your heart, your higher self is like, you know so much better than that, and you should give yourself credit for how far you've come and where you're headed, and be so proud of who you are. And love yourself more than you ever have before. Yet it's so incredibly enticing when someone from your past all of a sudden comes out of nowhere. You know, for a brief second, you're just like kind of swept into it, or at least I am, and I think it's such an interesting pattern. And I think right now we're in a time where we're breaking a lot of our patterns, which is really great, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy. I think the closer that you get to the light, to your higher self, to your purpose, to what makes you truly happy, to peace, to all of this, like, you know, inner love, inner peace, the closer that you get to that, I feel like the more ego comes up for you. And we've probably talked about this before in previous videos, but I still believe that's true. So I just think it's interesting how I have this pattern of, you know, there's a few people that I obviously have soul contracts with, so I can't blame them, because, you know, we mutually agreed to play out whatever we've played out. So I can't sit here and blame them and point the finger, you know, or play pity me victim, because I played as much a part of this as anyone else. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with stuff like this, because we have soul contracts that we agree to before we reincarnate and before we come into this life right now. So anything that's ever happened to you, your soul has agreed to, because it will obviously serve you and your life purpose and your soul's growth. So that's something we need to keep in mind, obviously. But this pattern that I have with a few people, it doesn't happen with many people. For the most part, I feel very strong, and I've had a lot of great people in my life. I still do have a lot of great people in my life who recognize me and my light, which means they recognize themselves and their light, because we're all mirroring each other, right? I've also had people mirror to me, very, very few people, a couple of these soul contracts, a couple of these soulmates who have really, really pushed me, and who, I guess, are continuing to do so unexpectedly years down the line, which I just think is so interesting. And they really make me feel powerless. Like, there are I think about two people that come to mind that I've had relationships with where I just completely give my power away to them. And it's like, why would you continue to do that? Why in your right mind would you continue to do that? If the universe has brought you apart, obviously for a reason, to show me how strong I am, and to keep me on my path, and to keep me moving forward, to stay in alignment with my higher self, with my purpose, to be of service to the world. Because if those people were in my life and never left my life, I wouldn't be here today talking to you, because I would still be scared and in this spiritual closet, and I wouldn't be doing my music, and I just wouldn't be doing anything. I would be hiding out, and, you know, I'd probably be very fearful, and because that's who I was. And that's what's interesting about this, is that when people from your past come up, they often remind you of who you were in the past. how you used to act and what you used to believe. And so that's why it's interesting to me, because it's like the minute they come up and all this old stuff comes up for you to deal with, it's like, why would that even be enticing to me? Because I'm not that person anymore. So obviously it wouldn't fulfill me, and I really don't feel it would fulfill my heart and my soul to be engaged and to be involved again with some of these people, even just as friends. It's like, that would just be so toxic for me, because it would, not necessarily because of who they are, but because it would bring me into a space where I'm not anymore. And I feel like it's so easy to fall back into an old state of being. And now I'm in a new state of being, and I need to stay here. But here's the thing. I think that this brings up so much emotion and so much like confusion and almost angst, because I think that the fear is, if I fall off my path, that's the fear, that I will fall off my path and I won't be able to get back on. And I think that that's a really disguised fear that a lot of us have. So that's what I'm learning. Like, I don't have the answers for everybody. I don't have all the answers for myself. I mean, I do inside. Obviously, we all have the answers that we need inside. But, you know, today's video isn't about, like, pinpointing how to get through this. It's like, this is just me going through it, and that's all I can do, is be honest, you know. But that's what I feel. I feel like when someone or something from the past triggers us, we get scared, and part of us wants to go towards it because, again, it's comfortable and it feels safe because we've done it before, and it's just a habit. It's out of habit. It's not out of, yeah, I actually want that. It's just out of habit. And the other part of you is like, oh my God, I need to steer clear of that. And this is what I mean about what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, finding this middle ground. Because those are two, excuse me, those are two polar opposite sides. There's the side of, like I said, out of habit, yes. And then there's the other side of, absolutely not, I'm going to run in the other direction because I feel like that's not good for me. But that's out of fear. It's not out of this middle ground, like, you know, strong point of saying yes or no. That other opposite side is just running out of fear, because it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you or anything to do with my past. And it's out of fear because it doesn't want to look at your past, that side, that opposite side, that fearful side. They're both ego. They're just taking on two different masks. So that fearful side just doesn't want to look at your past, doesn't want to look at anything or anyone from your past. It doesn't want to do a life inventory, and maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's what I need to find that middle ground, to find that space of peace and forgiveness, is to go there. You know, maybe you have to dabble in both of these sides or just pick one. You know, I think it's really important that we don't blame ourselves if we do fall off our path, because I think that's life. We will occasionally fall off our wagon, whether we go back into a relationship or a friendship that doesn't serve us, and we know better, but we choose it anyway. You know, we have to forgive each other, yes, and ourselves for making these mistakes, because they're not really mistakes. You know, these things are just like divinely planned and are here for our learning and for our soul's growth. And we can't be afraid to fall off our path and to be on that opposite side of the spectrum where we're just running and running and running away. Because eventually you're going to get tired and you're going to have to deal with whatever is present for you anyway. And you're going to have to feel what you need to feel and look at your past and look at whatever's coming up for you anyway. You know, so you can save yourself running around and running and running and running and getting exhausted. You can save yourself that just by trying to find that middle ground and breathing and just seeing and saying, okay, where is the lesson in this? You know, what is this really about? Because it obviously, people and things from your past don't come up just to haunt you and just to hurt you. You know, there's a divine reason for this. And if someone was meant to come back into your life, maybe it's not because you're meant to be together and you're going to be together forever. You know, maybe it's because they're supposed to remind you of how far you've come. And when they come into your life, their presence alone is enough for you to say, whoa, you know, yeah, I do want that, or I absolutely don't want that. And for me, I'm like, I absolutely do not want to go back to who I was. But I can't be so fearful of falling off my path. It's obviously very important for me to be rooted and grounded and strong and on my path and in alignment with my higher self and in alignment with my life purpose and with my passions and moving forward with my career and all this stuff. But at the same time, you know, like, I can't be so afraid to fall, because I trust that I will be able to get up. And we have to remember that we will be able to get up. We will be able to stand back up. We will be able to get back on our path. Because think about it. How many times have you fallen off your path in the past before? It's almost a tongue twister. But how many times? Like, honestly, we've all fallen off our path. And guess what? I think most of us have gotten back on, and we're still trucking and motoring forward today. And there are times when I think we just have to have reminders for a reason. And if someone wasn't meant to come back, they wouldn't come back. And if someone was meant to come back, they were meant to come back. And you have to leave it at that. It's just funny to me because I went through, like I said, these two major relationships where I played out the same dynamics. And to this day, I still have them triggering me in the same way. So it's really interesting. And it just shows me that, maybe there's something that I overlooked, and there's part of the lesson that I didn't really fully understand, and that I need to take that with me moving forward. It's funny because these are people that I really pined over, and I was so heartbroken when they left, and that things didn't work out the way I wanted them to, and blah, 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 and I would do anything for them to walk into this coffee shop, or I would do anything for them to call me, or to send me an email, or to reach out to me in some way. And, years go by, and I build myself up, and I try to find forgiveness, and I do come to a much more peaceful place than I've ever been, especially in regards to them. But it's funny because then they come out of the woodwork out of nowhere, and you're just like, what do I do? You feel all these crazy emotions, and part of you, like I said, wants to slip back into, okay, I'll welcome you into my life again. And then the opposite side is like, absolutely not. You need to stay so far away from me, and I don't want to deal with you. And it goes almost to like this angry place. It's like, yeah, why not? You can come and hurt me. And the opposite is like, fuck you, I hate you. Why did you do this to me? You're going to hurt me again. Why did you hurt me in the first place? And it's like, you don't want to be on either of those sides. Or maybe you have to dabble in those sides for a little bit. But I think the lesson is to try to find the middle ground. And it's tough. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's tough to find that middle ground. And to not be like in love with them and in love with your past and in love with your past addictions, but to not hate it either, to not hate them, to not hate yourself, to not hate who you were and who you've been, because everything you've went through has made you who you are today and is very valid. So, finding this middle ground is really, really interesting, and I'm going through it. I'm sure other people are as well, trying to find forgiveness without welcoming in what's toxic in your life and what you feel is no longer serving you and what you feel is not good for you. So let me know what you think. If anyone's going through this, I'd love to hear from you. I think it's a practice. I don't think there's any secret tips or tricks. I honestly just think it's a practice, and it's something we have to go through and not jump over. And, it's about forgiving ourselves at the end of the day, finding forgiveness for others, and that means that you can have compassion for you and for them to recognize again that you have a soul agreement and you've agreed to something that you don't really remember. Ask your angels or guides for help. Maybe you can remember what you've been through in past lives or whatever. It's all about finding forgiveness and remembering that just because you're forgiving doesn't mean that you have to be a pushover. It doesn't mean that you have to allow someone to walk back in your life and to step all over you and to hurt you. It doesn't mean that you have to go to this powerless place, because forgiveness is powerful, and that's what we need to remember. That's what I need to remember. That's what you need to remember. Forgiveness is powerful. So keep that in mind when you're dabbling between these two sides of, letting your guard down too easily or being angry, trying to find the middle ground. Remember that it should feel powerful. You should feel empowered. And your ego may try to trick you when you're angry because it's like, yeah, I'm empowered. But, that's not how empowerment really feels. That's not how true power really feels. It should just feel peaceful. It shouldn't be clenched fists, So that's what I'm going through. I hope you guys can relate in some way. Try your best. We're all going through this journey together, and at the end of the day, we're all exactly where we need to be. We see who we need to see. We bump into who we need to bump into. We have the conversations that we need to have. We're reminded of who we were and how far we've come for a reason. And I think we just need to, try our best to stay balanced and try our best to stay on our path, but at the same time not be afraid to fall off, because if you do fall off, you will get back on track, because you're strong enough to get back on track. And not only that, but your angels and God and all of the divine are going to help you to stay on your path. And maybe it's part of your path to fall off your path for a little bit so you can get back on it even stronger and even more focused. than ever before. Take care.